It's been a long shot, your involvement in the politics of Delta State. Aside being a historian, how will you describe the evolution of politics in Delta State?
Well, first of all, good to see you. It's been a while and Happy New Year. I think it also depends on where you're looking at the politics from. You're looking at from the Midwestern into the division of Bendel or Delta. You're looking at the time of Chief Felix Ibru, all through the military era into Chief Ibori, which is where most people would rather refer to as really the foundation of politics, which took roots. I'm sure you know that by the time Chief Ibori came, of course, built a formidable army and team of structure. And after him, we had Dr. Douin. And after his tenure, you know, you also agree that he was larger than life. Ibori was everywhere, and practically became the father of modern politics at Delta. And after him came Dr. Douin, because Chief Ibori had laid the foundation. Dr. Douin tried to take the state to another level with programs and projects. And then, of course, Senator Ifeanyi Okowa. By the time Okowa came in 2015, he also tried to, you know, replicate policies that impacted directly on the people. So three of them, actually, in their own various ways, have given Delta what we have today. And of course, with the current governor trying to do his bit to add value to the lives of Deltans. So I think that it has evolved. It has evolved from a single lane on Nebisi Road in those days. It has evolved to, I mean, people really come to Delta today. It's a surprise. I agree that the geopolitics is the dynamics are different, but the actors are still the same. In 25 years, we've had the same actors basically who have been around. Delta is one big place. Every local government is like a state capital on its own. And so the kind of infrastructural development here may not be the same as some other states that have, yeah. So I think basically, depending on who you are speaking to, in my case, I'll say that Delta has evolved. There's a lot to do, more to do. And if you look at Dr. Douin's time, after Chief Ibori had tried to lay the foundation, what Dr. Douin tried to do was to look at Delta Beyond Oil, big legacy projects. You saw the schools, you saw the policies on healthcare and all of that. And then when Senator Okowa came, he tried to deal directly with empowerment, empowering the person. So you saw the programs on youth empowerment, you know, and all of that. So three of them, and you know, I mean, Dr. Douin and Senator Okowa were all foundational members of Chief Ibori's government. So there's that history. In terms of security, it's been on and off. We're not there yet. There's a national problem, and that national problem has to do with the fact that our constitution recognizes only one kind of police. So in the area of security, we have not done well as a country, and Delta is part of Nigeria. I'll expect that they'll take community policing more seriously, even more seriously than state policing. because I am of the opinion that once community policing exists, 80% of the kind of crimes committed today in our communities will cease to exist, almost cease to exist. Because when I say community policing, I just say that, look, transfer the leadership and authority of policing in the local governments to the council chairman. And once they have that authority, I mean, you come from a community, I'm sure there's vigilante in your community. Transform that vigilante to a properly trained community policing system. Pay them. So in Ikpokpo South, where I come from, for instance, you can have a 500-man vigilante. I mean, they are community people. You're paying them between 15 and 25,000 naira monthly. You give them all the equipment they need, you know. The area of healthcare, you know, is still the same, circle. I don't think infrastructure is the problem. We need manpower, and we need a lot of equipment, really, because the primary healthcare system is not working, and it has really put a strain on the secondary facilities, and of course the tertiary institutions, which is institutions like Luth and all of that, you can't say are functioning 100%. Nigeria does not have a research center that I know of that is functioning in full capacity. So in these areas of national development, Delta is also struggling in some parts because there are deep issues. Just recently, I'm sure you know that light has been removed from the exclusive list, so states can now generate and sell power. And we are hopeful that the states understand quickly. I know Delta has begun that process about three years ago, so I hope they're able to tap on it quickly and see how they can properly distribute. I mean, we have a lot of oil and gas here, so we will not have the excuse of lagging behind when states like Enugu and some other states have taken, even Edo, as I hear, you know, have taken the baton and they are running with it. So depending on where you're looking at in terms of development, we've had our fair share of growth. We also have our fair share of areas where we need to improve on very quickly.
Before I go into the mainstay of politics in Delta states today, let's look at, you talked about local government. You were active in the local government, you were the local government chairman. That should be Ikpokpo South, to be precise. It is often impressing the minds of people that a lot of creativity is expected at the local government governance. What was governance to you, and what informs your disposition to governance at the local government?
Oh, I think that first of all, you must be prepared. And unfortunately, there's this general impression that local governments are for no goods. But you find out that the way we have some incompetent chairmen, we also have incompetent chairmen. And I think that also affects all tiers of governance across the country. There's a death in recruitment across the country, whether it's in the National Assembly, whether it's even amongst governors, senators, even presidents. It's a big problem in the country. It's not about just local government. But I was prepared. And what we did, and my team, was to look at areas of focus. Don't forget that outside being chairman, I also became Algon chairman. The longest in Delta, you know, and we came in at a time when recession had just begun to hit us. And so what we tried to do was to see how we could strengthen the areas that we're focused on, the plan, the program, the agenda, areas of healthcare, areas of security, education. Those were very important areas for us, how to get kids back to school, how to make sure schools were functioning optimally, and making sure that children were not littered on the streets, how to get parents, to attend meetings and try to. We set up a drug revolving fund for primary healthcare centers, ensured that healthcare workers were going to work. There were challenges of transfer and posting, and we put our foot on the ground. At that time, there was a big problem. We met a wage bill of about 6 point something billion. I don't have the figures, and that was strange. While the local government was huge in terms of recruited staff, we were surprised that the wage bill was that huge. So we employed the services of a consultant. I remember InfoSec then. I approached my friend and I mentioned to the governor, Senator Okowa, who I must confess had a way of treating local governments very differently. Yes, very differently. I think that may also have been as a result of the fact that he was once Secretary of Council and Chairman of Council. But beyond that, he also understands the importance of ensuring that local governments function well for the benefits of the state. So I think I came prepared. I came prepared with my team, and from the get-go, we set the ball rolling, and were able to achieve the little we did, even when we had challenges of funding. Isoko South was one of those local governments that were in minus for 6 years. Isoko South, Ethiopia East, Ughelli North, Ughelli South, amongst the 7 local governments that had challenges, and it was ingenious at the end of the day. In fact, the story of how we is a story for another day, but somehow we got out of that, and then we tried to stabilize the local government. People want to trust leadership, and so you must have an open door policy. People want to be able to reach you as chairman of council, so you must be available for them, whether in the office or in the community. And one of the areas I focused on was peace and security. And one of the important virtues you must exhibit is speak the truth. When there's a case before you, try not to take sides, because once the communities are in turmoil, your local government cannot be in peace. So I'll say that my 6 years as chairman was adventurous. I hear that someone is writing my story, one of you actually, and I sent him a text. He was doing it secretly, but I've come to hear about it, and I think they will be documented. But to come to your question, local government system must evolve to the point that people must understand the importance of that tier of government. It is the most important functional tier of government. It's like the roots of a tree. If local governments do not function properly in this country, Nigeria will run in a circle. And I'm sure that's why, in the wisdom of the Supreme Court, they are beginning to see how we can begin to change some of the challenges that we are faced with, whether it's political, whether it's economical, financial, whether it's structural. It's important that we get the local governments to function properly. And until we do that, we probably might not get things right in this country.
Beyond the expectations in management in the local governments, a lot of conversation has gone into the state's influence on local governments. For instance, there was conversation around staffing, employment by the Local Government Service Commission as much more than the influence the local government chairman would have. You have been in Argon, DG Argon, you've been Deputy Vice Chairman Argon. How do you situate a better context in that narrative?
Okay, so first of all, I think that these are constitutional issues, deep constitutional issues. The Constitution, as it is today, gives the Houses of Assembly that function to perform. That to me is an aberration. Not their fault, but I mean, it doesn't make sense that an institution like the local government, a chairman can sit in his office and then a transfer letter comes. His most important staff is transferred without his knowledge. I think local governments should be allowed to operate their own commissions, transfer their own staff under the authority of the chairman of council. That way, there will be more effectiveness, and a lot of the challenges that are faced today will not happen under that kind of structure. So I am for devolution and dissolution of local government service commissions across the country. It doesn't help to bring life to the local government system. It's like the local government is operating two structures. Because, I mean, you can imagine if the federal government was transferring head of service and directors to the state government, I'm not sure they will function well. There will be apprehension, not loyalty to the chairman, but loyalty to the job. You understand? And the staff that is being transferred is not sure when they will transfer him next. Somebody may not, I mean, and it happens regularly. A political leader may not just be happy with you, goes to the chairman of the local government service commission, breathes on him, and then he transfers a staff that has a lot of capacity and competence and impact in local government, and you're left to be struggling. So these are some of the challenges they are faced with, and that's why one of my areas of focus is ensuring that we speak out in such a way that there's an understanding between the states and the local government. And one of those areas is administrative autonomy. It's very key. Now that there's financial, there must be administrative autonomy. It's very important. It's setting the local governments back in a lot of ways. Part of the challenge we face, I hear they're paying the minimum wage. In my time, we couldn't pay. There was no money. That's the reality. Because staffs are employed for you. And so, I mean, and if you look at the local government system, there's an average of 600 staff in a local government in Delta. And they like to go to where there's money. And in those days, you had the likes of Warri North, Burutu, Bomadi, Warri South, and Warri Southwest. Those were the local governments with a lot of money. And so most times they're overstaffed. So, but in my own thinking, in Isoko South where I was chairman, I didn't need more than 170 staff. A majority of my staff would have been health workers, environmental workers, few admin staff, you understand, and engineers here and there. But those are the areas of focus. Of course, you had the teachers who were also. So I think that local governments should have administrative autonomy to help to strengthen the work they do as chairman of council.
All right, so beyond administration, let's look at politics generally, essentially in the state. You've been active, and I don't know how you're going to.
I've not been active in almost 2 years. I've not been active in almost 2 years. You know, I became a prodigal son, even as a member of PDP, and I believe very strongly that we need to redefine our politics in a lot of ways, and my party, the PDP, needs to tell themselves the truth. You know that the party has been held in the jugular by one man, and that was also a function of how much we have devalued ourselves. So they call it politics, but you find that Nigeria is gradually drifting into a one-party state. The presidential candidate of our party has not also shown leadership, because he has been jumping from one party to the other. And then he came, and then they gave him the ticket. I supported him because of Okowa. And I have no apologies for that. You know, because, I mean, Senator Okowa was my boss and governor for 6 years. And as far as I'm concerned, outside the politics of choice and all of that, I think he did very well. And I can defend that. Forget the issues of EFCC. No, there's no, in the Senate where you are, I'm not sure they're up to 10% of them that don't have EFCC cases. So I hope he's vindicated, and I'm not sure he's afraid of the law. But beyond all that, some of us supported. I was deputy director training, and I went around this country training our people, to support because of his own capacity as a person. I may not, nobody plays politics completely 100%. Not everybody will like you. There are certain values you bring to the table that you just pick, today, as outspoken as Peter Obi is, people blame him that Anambra State did not move forward in his time. So you always find pockets of these disagreements here. I think so. My take will be that the nation is drifting to a one-party state, but we have a strong president. We have a strong president who is determined to turn things around. And if we are honest, let's take the oil sector, for instance. See what's happening to Dangote. All of a sudden, the refineries are working. And I'm very sure as time goes on, look, a lot has happened in this country. And we know that what we need is strong leadership. And outside a few reasons, I think generally, Nigeria did not begin to decay in 2023. It's been long coming. And I see him as somebody who takes responsibility, but also takes action. And I think that the earlier our party, the PDP, sits up and plays good opposition politics, the better for them. Except you want me to delve to the states.
We'll come to the states eventually. Speaking of what you've seen the president do, you have been in government and you understand the need for creativity and making things happen in government. Will you, I wouldn't say, you're a member of PDP. Would you say the president is in good control of the ship of state?
Yes, he is. And let me say that he is. He's a president that gives you confidence. He's a president that takes action. He's a president that is able to, he came with a plan. Not all the plans may work at the same time. But there is hope and the sign that he's able to take us from the challenges we face and take us to, he's also an accountant who also believes in a certain kind of economic policy. What you've had over the years are people in governance who really have no policies in terms of the economy. So he has his mindset on what he thinks or where he thinks Nigeria should be heading to. And I believe very strongly that this year, by the middle of this year, we should be able to see the signs of our economic growth. So I think the president is strong, firm, somebody who takes no prisoners and takes responsibility for whatever actions that he has.
All right, so let's come back to our state, Delta State, and let's trace a little bit of antecedents. Ahead of the 2023 election, Delta State, earlier you talked about the army built by Chief James Ibori. A lot of dynamics were thrown into the mix ahead of 2023 election, and some would say Delta State was reasonably polarized. Others might disagree. How would you react to the politics ahead of 2023 in Delta State?
Well, the politics was politics. People showed interest. My friend and my brother, David Edevie, wanted to be governor. Peter Mrapa wanted to be governor. I didn't support the fact that anybody from the South, referring particularly to Senator James Manager, who is my leader, and Kingsley Otuaro was deputy governor, should even have contested in the first place. But all the other people, James Agoye, all the other people from Central, which to my mind, because of the structure that has been put in place, were qualified to run. We all supported different people. I may not have agreed with the style of how the incumbent governor emerged, but he emerged. And I tell people that the biggest lesson I have learned is that if God does not want something, it will not happen. That is the biggest lesson that I've learned. Whatever you use to get there, the Almighty has a way of stopping it. We have seen people who won elections and they didn't get sworn in. And so I see, that is how I see the lesson from this whole process, because after the support for David Edevie, it was still very divided. The state was still very, very divided. So what I would say is that I think politics just played itself. Politics played itself, people made choices. It's only in Nigeria you see that people are punished for their choices. And most times, what you also find out is that people suffer because they don't have a second address. And so the tendency for those in power to punish you by starving you, either of appointment, either of contracts, patronage, is always high. And if we don't run away from that kind of politics, it will be a cycle that will never stop. And you find that your best hands are probably affected because they speak their minds. So I think that it was politics, and people just made their opinions known by their choices. And when people make their opinion, look, it's only in Nigeria where you see a 40-year-old adult who has attained a level of maturity being referred to as a child. And that 40-year-old is Prime Minister in Canada, Prime Minister in France, President in America. It's only here. And so I think that we must begin to give preference to a lot of capacity and listen to ourselves. Politics is about consensus building. And I think that as we move on, we must listen. Its dynamic is changing. There was a time in this country where carrying of ballot boxes was the in thing. Am I right? Today that's not the in thing. They have gone more digital. So it will evolve. It will get better, and people's voices will be heard at the right time. So I think that what happened in 2023 was politics. Sometimes it's you win some, you lose some. It's tough, it can be painful, it can also be sweet. And once you take it that way, you move on. The former governor lost in Delta. Lost all the people shouting anti-party in PDP. Most of them supported Labour Party. Most of the leaders you see. So how did he lose? Somebody was governor for 8 years. I don't know if you understand. His highest votes should have come from here. His highest votes should have come from here. So it's just politics, and we pray that our minds evolve to, it's politics.
Speaking of, DUG was active in the political affairs of that time. What has become of DUG? In our vintage observation, DUG was seen to be specifically of different strides. There were those who were in support of, presidential candidate that were seen siding with APC, and there were those who stayed back with PDP. How would you describe the power play of politics in DUG at the time, and what has become of DUG today?
There was no power play. The DUG was born out of the need to basically look at issues in Delta and see how we can propagate very strongly the Edevi agenda. And at one point, I'm sure you heard all the rumors, oh, David did not have supporters and all of that, and we laughed. And we said, no, I mean, we're not children. I mean, you get to a stage in your life, you say it the way it is. And we said, no, David has a lot of supporters, a lot of supporters. For somebody who had the votes he had, I'm sure they were shocked in the primaries. But the reality is that DUG was born out of that situation. We believed in Edevi's agenda and his program, and we felt that we were best suited to sell it to Deltans and Nigerians and the world at large. So myself and the current chairman of NEDC, Chedu Ebe, and a lot of other people, began to come together and see how we can. But there were many tendencies, but all get towards achieving the modernization of Delta agenda. We read the document, we believed in documents, and so we began to, propagate that. Yes, in DUG, a lot of tendencies, but basically just the APC and the PDP tendencies. For instance, like I told you earlier, when I voted for the PDP for presidential election, and I did that without any apologies, while some others voted for Labour Party, some voted for Asiwaju and all of that. So we are Deltans, importantly, and we believe that our local community, which is Delta, can be better based on the agenda that you present to us. DUG today is still strong. We are not making noise. We are watching. We're looking at the situation in the country. We meet from time to time. We discuss, by and large. But very soon also, we'll begin to make public statements. But we are meeting. We're talking to ourselves. 1 or 2 people have left us. 2, 3, and 4 people have joined us. It's like that. It's like that. I used to, may so rest in peace, Sayemo Sieto used to tell us that in politics there are 3 things. If you don't get patronage of contract, if you don't get patronage of appointment, or you are not consulted on issues, then you're not in the politics. And for some of us, all 3 are as a result of choice. Some people are not interested in any of them. Some are, but on a different platform. So DUG is a focused, respectable platform. Even though we are not very vocal today, but we are just there, watching.
That brings me to the conversation of the moment. Delta State, in our earlier conversation, you talked about the country almost drifting into one-party state. Similar voices are even beginning to be heard in Delta State. The politics that is being played, you must have heard of the plausible rumor of the possibility of the state governor defecting to the APC, and a whole lot of that have heated up the polity. In your understanding of the politics of Delta State, do you envisage that such could happen? Do you think there is a myth to that?
In politics, is anything impossible? Nothing is impossible. I hear also from the grapevine that Ned Nwoko is going to APC. So you can imagine Ned Nwoko and Peter Oboshi in the same party. See, life is dynamic. The governor is a member of PDP, but he's the leader of the party. And if he chooses to go to APC tomorrow, there's not much the followers can do. They will join him. I mean, he'll be able to present his case and tell them why, and they'll join him. The only thing is that when he goes to APC, the question that will be asked is, this party that you were abusing during campaign. But Nigeria, nobody really cares about all of that. It becomes history. Yeah. It becomes history. The reality, from what I know, is that if the governor Elder Sheriff Oborowori decides to go to APC, there's not much people can do. They will go with him to support him. And the reason may be out of fear. And you see what happened in Edo State. It's been contested hotly that Aswa Godalo won that election. And you don't want a situation where that kind of thing happens to you. So the point I will make is that, first of all, PDP was too late in coming out with a response. It showed that there's some truth, an element of truth in it. But the other question will be, what will be APC's reaction? How will they take it? Because I know that they're also fighting amongst themselves to produce a governor. I, for one, because Delta South is waiting to have it, I will not support another Urobo man to be governor. That's the reality. But coming to the subject you have asked, I think that the governor is talking to people, and with time, it will be whatever is happening in secret. The pregnancy will come up and the child will be born. But I think nobody showed nothing to. Obaseki moved from APC to PDP and took the structures with him. Nothing happened and won the election. It's happened across Nigeria. It won't be new if he does it. But I know he will be consulting a lot of people, particularly former governors and all of that. So when the time comes, Nigerians and Deltans particularly will not be lazy people.
Yeah.
There will be talk, there will be discussions. Leaders across the state will weigh the options, look at the issues, and critically examine them. And the decision will be taken. And when it's taken, it will all come down to its politics.
Correct. You talked about covertly, you talked about the need for distribution of power in Delta State, like it has always been the zoning thing, like you talked about, which is likely going to be seen as a major factor in deciding what happens in election 2027. How do you see that coloring the power play in Central and the other senatorial zones?
When you say coloring now, so the average, politics will always play its parts. People, you have different kinds of people. People who believe that party, whoever my party brings, I go with, irrespective of the tribe. We have buckets of people with different orientation. But I am giving a more global outlook from my discussions with ordinary citizens, leaders across the state, particularly in my senatorial district, which is Delta South. There's going to be a lot of apathy against a fresh person who may want to do an 8-year tenure, irrespective of whether you even want to sign an agreement with us, because you can just get to that time of elections and you say that, oh, something happened. Right. The Lord said, God did not say, the Holy Spirit did not, and then, we lie a lot with religion. Yeah. But the truth is that is the general perception that I get. And that there's this laid back attitude of constituents towards somebody else coming to accept the governor does woefully bad, then that will be a matter. But I think that people are saying, and I'm sure it also comes to Delta North, because what you see in Delta North is they are waiting for South to finish, and then people calculate that deep, So I think that will color, and like I said, except this administration does poorly. If it doesn't do poorly, then there may be no reason to, whether you're in PDP or APC, particularly in the South, to bring in somebody new.
Speak to the conversations in the polity in the state. There have been clusters of impression about governance. In your estimation, in your understanding of politics and governance, How will you situate, how will you describe Delta State in the last 2 years, the last one?
You want an honest response. I've been out of politics in Delta State in the last 2 years. I only recently began conversations, but I will not be a good judge because I've tried to block my ears, block my eyes from what's been happening here. I didn't support the governor, who I don't have any issues with, but just didn't support him. But my leaders and I have had conversations. His Excellency Senator Kowa and I we've had conversations, and we're just now beginning to get involved in the politics of PDP. I had taken a leave to try to attend to my businesses, and then at some point I was appointed DG of Algon, so there was a lot of work to do. And at some point towards the end of last year, I resigned my appointment over the place. The long story, but it was becoming increasingly difficult to operate in that kind of toxic environment. So I'm just getting back, and I'm not sure that I'm the best person to give a verdict on the last 2 years. But you know that I hold no prisoners. And as we engage in the politics of our people, and ensuring that their welfare is at the topmost of government's concerns, we will speak out where there are issues. You can be sure of that. You can be sure.
I would like to get your insight on the political atmosphere in Edo State, where you've been in Algon, you've been Algon Vice Chairman, apart from being the Chairman of Algon Delta State, you've been Algon Vice Chairman, you've been DG Algon. The situation we found in Edo State, where the government, the entire local government chairman were sacked by possibly the State House of Assembly. Where do you situate that? Do you see that as positive politics?
It's toggery. That's toggery. What's happening in Edo State is toggery. And it's disappointing that that's a state that has Senator Shomole. And I'll tell you why Senator Shomole particularly, because it's hypocrisy. I anchored a program last year where the Deputy Speaker convened stakeholders on this local government issue. And I asked him a pointed question: where do you stand on local government autonomy? And his position that day is not the same position as to what the governor is doing today, because he cannot also say he doesn't have some form of influence on the governor, who was also a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria before he became governor. Now, even if you don't concede that the local government chairmen are thieves, the House of Assembly asks you to bring your income and expenditure. They were elected chairmen, elected by the people, irrespective of any form of election. There was an election by law. You ask them to submit their documentation to probe them in one breath. In the other breath, you say they are removed from office. Who does that? So why did they conduct elections? Why do they have councillors? Why do they have a legislative arm? Why do they take their budget to the legislative arm? And then where a chairman refuses to go, you send talks there. Or you forcefully ask the legislative arm to impeach them. What is happening in those states is unacceptable. It's very, very unacceptable. And I'll expect that, you see, when he's not in your house, the madman is called a madman until he's your brother. What is happening in those states is not politics. It's pure toggery. And I expect that Samson Osage, the Attorney General, will be able to advise His Excellency properly. There's a way to get these things done. You accuse me of stealing. You invite me. I'll come. I'll present my books. The law says that if I'm found guilty, I'll leave. Find me guilty first before you remove me. And you see, these are the challenges that we face. And that's why the local governments are not productive. There's no meaningful development in many local governments because of this fear and this kind of attitude. I don't want to use very strong words, but I think the governor took the wrong steps. People around him need to advise him, and the earlier he understands. Even you see how desperate it is. Some local government chairmen are now decamping to APC. So the minute they decamp, what happens? They are no longer thieves. That is the challenge we find in Edo State. And that's the kind of politics that must be stopped in this country. And that's why you find that the local government is not moving forward.
For I wind this down, and for want of time, as brief as it could be with that, Delta is known for its culture in politics. Do you see Delta?
So which is a culture?
For instance, the rotation arrangement could be seen as part of the culture.
Yes.
I don't think Delta is one of the few PDP states still standing, and people have always believed that, give or take, PDP still has a way of harmonizing and galvanizing the politicians in Delta State, because there's hardly any politician in any other political party that we do not trace his antecedent to the People's Democratic Party in Delta State.
Sure.
How would you look at Delta still bringing the best out of its political culture going forward or ahead of 2027?
Well, you know, when you talk about political culture, I think there's a way we all rally around each other to get things done. I think if I understand your question, is how do we bring the best? How do we bring the best out? In elections, you don't go to people's houses and beg them to contest elections. People present themselves, and from the lots that are presented, you make your choices. Nothing stops anybody in 2027 in PDP, assuming the governor does not move to APC, from contesting, even though I will expect that PDP will give him the right of first refusal. But that somebody also wants to contest in PDP against the governor should not be an opportunity for people to try to destroy the person. They sell their manifesto, they sell their program, and choices will be made. So I think that it's still the same process, system. There will be primaries. We don't know if the Electoral Act will be amended. You know, the last one, there were challenges. Challenges to the extent that only the ad hoc delegates voted in that election. We had hoped that the general, in fact, many people attribute their loss because the ad hoc delegates are usually the governor's delegates. Oh, that's a fact, because he just looks for his friends and gives them the slots to produce the people. So basically, that is the situation we find ourselves. So, but politics must be robust, and even with people seeing that clear danger, they still want to show interest because they want to serve, and for whatever reason. So I think that it won't change much, but I also expect that people don't sit in their houses and complain. There must be participation, and I expect that people participate very seriously in the process of politics and electing their leaders.
Right, so you have known Chief James Ibori. You have described the former governor, Senator Okowa, as a boss. Do you see these two playing across each other in 2027?
You need to expatiate your question. so that I can properly answer that question.
It is,
or maybe more direct.
All right. Some people had the impression that the power play between Governor Okowa and his former boss, Chief James Ikpokpo, colored the politics of 2023. Some people have seen Ibori sharing so much affinity and relationship with the president, who eventually was his classmate as governor, and others have seen Governor Okowa as still holding sway in the state. Do you still see the impact of these two? It was obvious Chief James Ibori had a candidate, Governor Okowa had a candidate.
There's a difference between a candidate and a preference.
In all of this, do you still see what happened in 2023 rearing its head in 2027?
Answer that question in this way, and I think that a lot of people need to understand this, and the earlier the better. Senator Okowa is an active politician. Chief James Ibori is the father, anybody can argue with themselves, of politics in Delta. So he's the grandfather to some of us. And today, I can tell you without reservation that he's an elder statesman. And let me tell you a story. Of the 3 presidential candidates, he was close to 3 of them. Very close to 3 of them. Don't forget, his challenges in this country started because of his support for Atiku in 2003. He's very close to Atiku. He's extremely also very close to Peter Obi. Do you understand what I'm saying? And of course, like you said, Asiwaju, today in Nigeria, Chief Ibori is not playing partisan politics because he has friends everywhere, whether in PDP, in APC, in Labour, in SDP, in NNPP, because Kwankwaso is also his very good friend. And so I think that is the role he's playing. And, you know, coming back to your, and trying to paraphrase your question, Chief Ibori did not have a candidate. He may have had a preference. And he didn't hide it, without any apologies to anybody. Everybody's entitled to a preference, but he didn't have a candidate. That's the reality. And what happened was politics. Like I said, you win some, you lose some. Doesn't diminish who he is and what he is to us in Delta. Deltans love him. I'm sure you don't want a test of popularity because when he appears in functions, it is not choreographed. People naturally love him. He has paid his dues. Dr. Odon has also paid his dues, same as Senator Okowa. So there's this trying to pitch them and all. Politics was played in 2023, and I like to leave it at that. The man is not sleeping, he's not keeping anybody in his mind. I'm talking about Chief Ibori. He's gone on with his life, he's enjoying himself. He's a grandfather. Anywhere he enters, doors are open. He wants to help as many people as he can. He's part of trying to help the president, you know, do better. And so I don't think that at his level, and that's where a lot of politicians should learn from. Being an elder statesman is not just saying it with your mouth, by your actions too. And a lot of people need to graduate into that level of politics because that is what becomes destructive at the grassroots here. So I don't think himself and Senator Okowa will they have any, no, they don't. I don't think so.
Thank you so much, Honorable Tiako, for giving us this time. We hope to have more of these conversations with you now that you will be having more time with us in Delta State, having resigned there.
No, I've started a consulting firm, consulting and recruitment firm, Crest Point. So I'm still in Abuja. Maybe when it's election, I'll come and cast my votes. Of course, I will come and cast my votes and campaign when that time is here. But I'll spend more time, come home once in a while to attend to. I'm still a traditional chief. My church activities are also still here. So I'm a community person. So you'll be seeing me more often.
Thank you so much.
Thank you too. Thank you.